If you incompetent fools want to defy me, why don't you just quit? Then why don't you come to my company? I've been struggling with hiring. If you incompetent fools want to defy me, why don't you just quit?
As the other employees watched anxiously, I felt I had finally reached my limit with the words thrown at me by my boss in name only. Understood. Then I'll resign. That was the moment my decision to leave the company I'd worked at for 6 years finally solidified. Going back about an hour, holding the resignation letter handed to me by a young employee, I sighed heavily to myself, thinking, not again. My name is Kotaro Aonuma. I'm a 28-year-old HR manager at Blanc Construction, a mid-sized builder in Tokyo.
Kotaro, I just can't do this anymore. I'm not cut out for it.
I'd really like to keep working with you if possible. Could you tell me what's on your mind?
I'm sorry. I feel terrible for always making mistakes and I just can't try any harder.
I understand. It's a shame to lose you, but I'll accept this. Again? When I explained the situation, the president furrowed his brow. That made 5 resignations this month. For the past 6 months, Blanc Construction had been facing nothing but HR problems. That's 5 this month. Due to recent reassignments, the construction sites are becoming incredibly unstable. President, I've suggested this many times, but we need to transfer Urara to another department, or at least revoke her authority over organizational changes. But as a result, our labor costs are going down, and we're actively hiring, so overall our headcount hasn't decreased, right? Well, it's true that Urara still lacks experience. I'm counting on you to back her up, Kotaro. The root of all these headaches is Urara Shiratsuka, who joined the company about 6 months ago. She's the daughter of our 3rd-generation president, Tasuke Shiratsuka. But no matter how desperately I try to convey the issue, the president's answer is always the same. He just spoils his daughter, and talking to him is like talking to a brick wall. Why doesn't he feel the sense of crisis? It's not about the number of people. The employees are already completely exhausted. Her logic is that if people quit, we just need to hire more, so she aggressively hires cheap young talent and assigns them haphazardly, as if to say, as long as we have bodies, it's fine. Ever since Urara became the HR manager, her personnel changes, which completely ignored the reality on the ground, had caused numerous problems.
Someone else quit today? Isn't it your job to make them stay?
Cursing the father and daughter who refused to listen to the workers in my head, I walked into the HR office, only to be immediately hit by a shrill voice. It seemed the news of the latest resignation had already reached her. With all due respect, simply having people isn't enough. If you keep making personnel decisions without considering the actual work sites, it's only natural that employees will leave.
We're the ones paying their salaries. It's their fault if they can't handle my instructions.
Repeating such self-centered reassignments, was she really a former HR professional at a foreign-affiliated firm?
Whatever. Who cares about those who quit? This is the organizational chart for the next term. I'm going to submit it to my dad now.
Glancing at the organizational chart, I wanted to hold my head in my hands at the sheer absurdity of the reassignments. I couldn't let this go through. You can't. If you throw this many rookies in all at once, the sites will fall into even more chaos. At least put the newcomers on a trial basis and assign veterans as their supervisors.
You're always complaining. Didn't I tell you labor costs are down to thanks to me? If you incompetent fools want to defy me, why don't you just quit?
With that, I reached my breaking point, and the story loops back to the beginning.
ask you straight. Do you have your next job lined up?
The next day, I was sitting across from Mutsuki Shimizu, a former senior colleague from Blanc Construction, who was 4 years older than me, at a cafe. Though we were in different departments, she often gave me advice. She had resigned 2 years ago. Not at all. I was told I didn't even need to hand over my duties, so as of today, I'm unemployed.
Then why don't you come to my company? I've been struggling with hiring.
Huh? The business card she handed me had a company name I'd never seen before, with Mutsuki's name listed as the CEO. I had called her for a completely different reason, but I never expected to be scouted after our conversation.
After I quit, I started an interior construction company. I think if you joined us, the company could grow even more.
During her time at Blanc Construction, she was a true career woman who handled everything from site management to sales. Getting scouted by someone I admired so much, there was no way I wouldn't be thrilled. I'm incredibly honored. Thank you. But are you sure you want me?
Thankfully, our business is on track, and we've been blessed with a great team. But despite the tailwind, we're severely understaffed. I know your dedication to HR. Your resignation this time was because of that, wasn't it? I figured you'd be the perfect person to connect us with people who fit our company.
Your words are too kind. May I think about this positively? I couldn't believe this kind of fate existed. From being at a complete loss to this unexpected turn of events, a warm feeling welled up in my chest. Since it had just happened, I told her I'd take it home to think about it, but my mind was pretty much already made up. After giving it a solid day of thought, I contacted Mutsuki, or rather, President Mutsuki. Though there was a brief interview, the paperwork went smoothly, and just a week later, I officially joined JS Interior Co. Ltd. Everyone is highly motivated. They get along so well. It's a really comfortable company to work for. 3 days after joining, when I bumped into Mutsuki, I honestly expressed my admiration.
I know, right? They're all such amazing people. It almost feels like a waste for me to be their president.
Most of the employees had been working hard alongside Mutsuki since the company's founding. There was absolutely none of the unreasonableness I felt at my previous company. Everyone shared a similar attitude towards work, and I was able to fit right in. Which is exactly why I couldn't understand it. Why wasn't a company this great attracting new people? And why weren't they staying when they did join? Finding out why? That's my job now. Right after joining, I had Mutsuki call the person in charge of general affairs and HR, and I started by reviewing our job postings.
We've been continuously posting job ads, but for the past few months we've barely had one applicant a month, if that. Our reputation on the sites is great, and thankfully our job requests keep increasing. But at this rate, the workload per person is going to be too much. We need to do something, but I just don't know why we aren't getting applicants.
I apologize for my ignorance, but JS Interior has been building a really good reputation lately, hasn't it?
Thank you. Did you look into it this short amount of time?
Yes, the response on social media was excellent. And the only negative feedback was about the price difference compared to major firms, which is inevitable. There's no way people wouldn't jump at a job offer from a company with such a great reputation. But the reason the number of applicants is so low is probably partly due to the job description.
The job description?
Once you join, it's clear that the system prioritizing the work sites, just as you've promoted, is firmly in place. But in this job posting, none of that is put into words. It just lists the skills required for the job. It's vague about who the target audience is, and as it stands, it just looks like grueling interior construction work. Mutsuki looked over the job posting again, nodding as if the scales had fallen from her eyes.
You're right. I was so focused on writing things accurately, I didn't think about how it was presented.
Also, if you don't have a strong preference, we might want to increase the number of platforms we use.
You mean recruitment platforms? If we use too many, won't the listing fees get expensive?
Yes, so for starters, I suggest using one platform for mid-career hires, and maybe adding a renovation-specific one for experienced workers.
Wait, there are recruitment platforms specifically for renovation work?
Yes, I think it'll be a much better fit than the platforms you're currently using. With their approval, I rewrote the job descriptions myself and contacted the platforms we plan to use. It was my first time editing something until its original form was completely gone, but even as a newcomer, there was a massive amount of obvious room for improvement.
Do you think this will bring in applicants?
The company itself is a wonderful place. Right now, its charm just isn't reaching potential candidates. Once we start popping up on their radar, the number of applicants will definitely increase. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for coming. I'm Kotaro from HR. A few months later, the improvements to our recruitment methods paid off. The number of applicants from both the website and phone calls had increased tenfold. This time, the applicant had a Level 2 construction management certification. People with solid skills were finally starting to apply.
I heard you had 2 interviews again today.
Evening, after the interviews had finished, Mutsuki, who had just returned from a site, asked me. Yes, both of them are strong candidates, but if we can only choose one, I'd prefer to have this person join us.
Oh? It looks like the other candidate is certified. Was there a problem with them?
No, both are ready to work immediately, but I felt the one who resonates more with our site philosophy is more likely to stay long term. That said, the certified candidate was also a good person. It's possible they just couldn't picture the long-term future, so I plan to make the final decision after the last interview.
You're right. More than qualifications, I want someone who fits in with us to stay a long time. A few months ago, I couldn't even imagine having the luxury of choosing. The atmosphere in the company was good before, but with all the new people joining, it's becoming even more positive. Asking you to join was definitely the right choice, Kotaro.
If I'm living up to your expectations, then I'm glad. My heart skipped a beat at her smile, and my eyes darted away slightly. As Mutsuki giggled softly, my face flushed even hotter. About a year after I joined, excellent talent gathered at the company one after another, and our initial team of around 20 employees had nearly doubled. JS Interior was boosting its performance more than ever before. However, not everything was smooth sailing. The next issue is turnover. Human resources are fluid, so no matter what you do, some people will inevitably leave. But I racked my brain every day, trying to figure out if there was anything I could do to prevent resignations that neither side wanted.
I'm sorry. To be honest, I just don't know if I'm being useful on site at all.
One day, while I was visiting a site, a new female employee called out to me. She looked incredibly stressed, so I booked a meeting room after work to hear her out. Thank you for talking to me about this. Could you tell me, as specifically as possible, why you feel that way?
I joined the company as a construction manager, so giving instructions to contractors and organizing the construction schedule should be my main job. But even though it's been 6 months since I joined, I'm only doing physical labor on site and they won't let me get involved in any construction decisions. I guess I'm just too unreliable for them to trust me with it.
I listened closely to the rest of her story, grasping the reasons and circumstances that led her to lose her confidence. I see. That would certainly make anyone anxious. I understand the situation, but I have a feeling there might be some sort of miscommunication going on. Within the next few days, I got some time to speak with her direct supervisor. So that's the situation. It seems she's currently worried that she isn't being valued. As I explained the situation, her supervisor's eyes grew wider and wider. When I asked him about it, he told me that she notices the smallest details, and that she's always been a massive help to him. Apologizing for his lack of management and saying he should have given her more responsibility sooner, he clearly cared deeply about his subordinates. Then let's have a proper discussion and find a middle ground that both of you are satisfied with. After that, they had an open and honest discussion about task delegation, and the solution became clear without Mutsuki or me even needing to step in. By the time they left the meeting room, their expressions were completely bright, and I was certain there was nothing left to worry about. A few days later, having communicated properly, they were running the site with excellent teamwork. In the end, work is all about human relationships. It's impossible to reduce turnover to zero, but a resignation caused by a simple misunderstanding is just too much of a waste. There might be things you can't help, but there are also things that can be fixed through conversation. I knew that from my past experiences.
First it was hiring, then it was turnover. I thought the HR headaches would never end. But things have improved so much, it's all thanks to you.
On a day Mutsuki invited me out for dinner after work, she let out a sigh of relief as she sipped her post-dinner coffee and said that. I let out a sigh of relief as well, happy that I was able to help. It's only because you created an environment where the voices from the field can be heard. For the next step, do you mind if I offer some ideas regarding career paths for our mid-level employees?
Yes, of course. Your input is already indispensable to this company, but don't work too hard. You're a precious employee of ours too, you know?
Yes, thank you. My heart thumped loudly at Mutsuki's smile. I couldn't tear my eyes away from her beautiful expression. She was a senior I respected, and now my president. But somewhere along the line, I had started wishing we could build a different kind of relationship. Four years passed. I had become the core of JS Interior, standing in a position that supported the entire organization. Right around that time, I received a phone call from my previous company. What could they possibly want now? I felt no obligation to answer, but worrying that a subordinate might be in trouble due to a clerical error or something, I pressed the call button.
Long time no see, Kotaro. I'll get straight to the point. I've become the head of HR at the company.
However, to my horror, the person calling was none other than Urara. I regretted picking up the moment I heard her voice.
Since you're so incompetent, you must have had a terribly hard time finding a job. Are you working part-time or something? You were the least terrible out of the bunch, so I'll hire you again as my direct subordinate. Hurry up and come back. If you come now, I'll make you HR manager right away, so you better be grateful. Okay?
I was almost impressed by her arrogance, which hadn't changed one bit since I resigned, but my answer was already set in stone. I decline.
Huh? Listen to me. I'm telling you I'm giving an incompetent like you, who had no choice but to leave us a second chance. Thanks to my strategies, costs are down and profits are up. You get to return to a company doing this well.
But because it was my old stomping ground, I knew exactly what lay behind the profits she had raised. It's true that since you took charge of HR, the number of hires has increased. Expanding the applicant pool was a good move. HR costs were kept down, and on paper the numbers looked like they were improving.
Oh, so you do understand.
But that's only in the numbers. Work sites filled mostly with inexperienced staff are bogged down by training, bringing actual work to a standstill. The work sites were constantly exhausted.
It's their fault for not being able to handle my instructions.
It's HR's job to provide an environment where they can handle it. Only then can an organization function. Those words of yours, deflecting blame for your own lack of ability, are the ultimate proof of your incompetence. What she called logical was simply personnel placement driven by her own emotions, preferences, and assumptions. If HR completely ignores the voices from the field and continues to act selfishly, sooner or later, the company will collapse. Even if you hadn't pushed me to resign back then, I would have left eventually anyway.
You little...
Is that all you called to say? Then I'll be... Wait, Kotaro, it's me, Tasuke. After a rustling sound, the person on the phone suddenly switched, and I heard a desperate voice. It seemed the president was right next to her. Please, forgive Urara's rudeness. She's just panicking, but she truly regrets it. To tell you the truth, our HR director quit. Because of that, all the complaints have surfaced, and we're completely stuck. That's when I remembered how you always gave me such thorough reports on our HR situation. I contacted you thinking that if you came back, you might be able to turn things around for us. Our headcount hasn't dropped, so our methods shouldn't be wrong. It's just that the gears are slightly misaligned. If you could just fix that... The number of gears hasn't decreased. But they don't mesh. Productivity has plummeted, and complaints are piling up. Do you know why that is? It's because the veterans who held the work sites together quit. People like your HR director, for instance. Just having a certain number of people doesn't mean productivity will be maintained. When young staff increases, training becomes necessary. You have to assign jobs based on the right person in the right place. The ones who can execute that properly are the veterans who know the sites better than anyone. Of course, Urara ignored the voices of the field and assigned inexperienced staff everywhere, believing that bodies alone would be enough to keep things running. As a result, costs went down while maintaining headcount, but the work site stopped functioning, and the HR director's resignation brought it all to the surface. The veterans had been sounding the alarm since I was there. If you continue to ignore their voices, this outcome is inevitable. Urara said she worked in HR at a foreign-affiliated firm in her previous job. But she came to work at this company. Isn't that because she caused the exact same problems at her last job and lost her place there? No, well, that's... No one ever said it out loud, but I'm sure everyone had guessed it. And just as we suspected, she had clashed with colleagues who valued long-term hiring at her last job, and quit without ever listening to their opinions. Despite that, she pushed the same agenda at Blanc Construction, making it look like she was achieving results through HR decisions that ignored the field entirely. If you continue to spoil and ignore the root cause, her, bringing back the mediator will only result in the exact same thing happening again. Besides, the fact that you've been listening right next to her this whole time without scolding your daughter for how she speaks to people is really saying something. I will not be returning to your company. Goodbye. Wait, Kotaro? Kotaro! I hung up, blocked the number, and walked back to my desk. She actually listens to the voices from the field. I felt grateful once again for my current workplace and the boss I had.
It's been a while, President Tasuke.
Ah, it has been a while, Mutsuki. Thank you so much for today. Mutsuki greeted him coolly with a stern expression. Sitting across from her, incredibly, was a completely haggard Tasuke. The reason they were facing each other was that for the past 10 days, Tasuke had been relentlessly calling JS Interior. He had apparently even barged into our office, so Mutsuki had no choice but to speak with him. I'll get straight to it. Please, I only need a few craftsmen. Can you lend some to us? Our sites are completely stopped right now. At this rate, the penalty fees will bankrupt us. That's right. Blanc Construction's situation had deteriorated to the point where it was too painful to watch. Every reliable subordinate had quit. The sites were plagued with constant trouble, and begging their clients for help yielded no positive results. Unable to construct anything, unable to retain staff, they had resorted to asking the bank for financing, only for their debts to balloon continuously. Amidst all that, the reason Tasuke had been relentlessly contacting Mutsuki was to get her to lend him workers. Hearing that Mutsuki had started an interior construction company and was running it successfully, he had relied on their past connection to beg for help.
I cannot accept. The reason I met with you today is to tell you to stop the obsessive phone calls and visits.
Why? I'll pay you. You started at our company too. Don't you feel any gratitude for what we did for you?
Gratitude? Do you perhaps not remember? 6 years ago, I brought you a proposal to improve the company's culture of neglecting the work sites. Well, you refused to even listen to me, though.
Gah, that's all in the past.
In the past, you say? For someone bringing up past gratitude, you're awfully quick to pretend the rest of the past never happened.
That's right. Actually, Mutsuki, or rather Mutsuki back then, had also directly petitioned the president to improve the company culture, just like I did.
President, please listen to the voices from the field. At this rate, our relationship with our clients will keep deteriorating until it's irreversible.
The field will figure it out on their own. Instead of worrying about that, you should be thinking about how to cut costs and increase profits. However, realizing that Tasuke would never listen to the voices on the ground, Mutsuki gave up on him and resigned. The reason I contacted Mutsuki after I quit was because although I didn't know the exact details, I felt our reasons for resigning were similar. So hoping to get some advice on what to do after quitting, I reached out to her, only to unexpectedly get scouted.
The current state of your company is the result of you treating the people around you not as partners working together with you, but as replaceable cogs in a machine. On top of that, you let your daughter run wild without consequence, didn't you? It's only natural that the competent people left first and the site stopped functioning.
I understand. I'm sorry. It was my fault. So please, just lend me some of your staff. If possible, Kotaro. I'm begging you.
No. Those are just empty words. You don't understand anything. Because if you truly understood what I was saying, you would never ask me to lend you people. You're just thinking that as long as you survive this current crisis, everything will be fine, aren't you? But human beings aren't objects that I can just lend out because I feel like it. Because they have their own will. If they can't agree with their instructions, their frustration will only build up. If I sent my staff to a terrible company like yours that completely ignores the field, they would rightfully suspect that I sold them out for money. My employees are my partners, who work together with me. And Kotaro is an invaluable employee who has supported our company. I have a duty to listen to their voices and protect them. It's been 6 years since I pointed it out, and your company culture hasn't changed at all. And even amidst such a massive crisis, you're still treating employees like mere parts. Even if you recovered once, you just go back to the exact same state. I will never lend my precious comrades to a company like that.
Wait, Mutsuki. Saying only that, Mutsuki bowed once and walked away. At her merciless words, the color drained even further from Tasuke's already haggard face. After that, Blanc Construction continued on a steady downward spiral.
Dad, if we recruit ready-to-work professionals with amazing benefits, we can turn this around. Raise the new hires' salaries to this much.
Urara, that's just not realistic. To begin with, we don't have the funds to pay that much.
Then just tell the people who used to work here that you'll pay them double and make them come back.
There's no way we can do that. Damn it. How did it come to this? If the deadline is missed, full repayment will be demanded at once. The merciless text on their loan repayment schedule shoved reality into their faces. Not even a few years later, Blanc Construction went bankrupt. The debt was far beyond what could ever be repaid, so Tasuke filed for personal bankruptcy. And in order to survive, Urara also had to start working part-time at a convenience store.
There's no way one person can handle this much work.
Despite saying it was impossible, she was forced to take on a workload clearly meant for more than one person. And as a result, she couldn't finish it all and spent her days getting yelled at by her superiors. Cheers! Meanwhile, JS Interior staff had more than tripled over the last 4 years. Naturally, sales had grown steadily as well.
Ever since you joined, the company has gotten remarkably better. I'm truly so grateful to you.
Our meticulous work, treating every single project with care, continue to bring in even more jobs. More than anything, it's a company filled with people who truly enjoy their work. I'm so happy to be working here. President, no, Mutsuki, the reason I invited you to dinner today is, well, I actually had something I wanted to ask you.
You're being so formal. What's wrong?
I took a deep breath, trying to soothe my pounding heart. Then, looking her straight in the eyes, I took the plunge and spoke. The truth is, I've had feelings for you for a long time. I still have a lot to learn at work, but I want to be someone who can support you. Please, will you go out with me? Mutsuki paused for a moment before her face turned completely red, but then she softly broke into a warm smile.
Still have a lot to learn? That's ridiculous. It's thanks to you that we've made it this far. It's already been 4 years, hasn't it? The day we reunited feels like it was just yesterday. Thank you so much for joining my company. To be honest, for the past 4 years, my feelings for the man who remarkably transformed our HR have only grown stronger.
Mutsuki gently placed her hand over mine. Then, her eyes narrowing affectionately, she answered.
I still have a lot of growing to do myself, but I would love to.
Whether it's the right data or people's true feelings, you can only see them when you face them head on. That's why I will never turn my eyes away from the field.
Brittany here. I absolutely love the fact that she used the word incompetent. You incompetent peasants! Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!